that generated like a high priority email to us. And so we would sort of try to immediately go solve it. And that also kind of generated sort of, I think, this pleasant kind of user experience where, I mean, it's frustrating when you hit an error in some service, but we could then often sort of 15 minutes later reach out to them and say, hey, we saw that you have encountered this problem. It's all fixed now. We really tried very hard to understand in sort of very granular detail what exactly it was that people were doing, where they were tripping up and so on. So just to give you some examples, we had a chat room for sort of providing support when people were integrating Stripe. It was actually a public chat room, which kind of had some downsides because, if we'd broken something or if somebody had some kind of embarrassing issue, sort of everyone would see it. But we thought that was kind of good because it would actually kind of put more pressure on us to sort of have the product be good. We had literally every time, sort of for the first, call it 10 users of Stripe, every time somebody sent an API request to Stripe, it sent an email to us. So we were like looking at every single API request. And, if we saw users do something weird, we're like, well, why did they do that, right? Or kind of where were our docs confusing or whatever. We did things like every time anyone ever hit an error. These are all kind of examples, I would say, of the sort of general pattern of really trying to be kind of hyper attentive to all the micro details of sort of what people were doing with the product and kind of iterating rapidly in response to it. And generally speaking, I think that sort of pre-product market fit metrics are actually relatively unhelpful because probably not that many people are using your product, right? And so if it's 20 users, you can kind of in some sense afford to just like look at everything they're doing and try to understand kind of what's working, what isn't. And actually, on this point, we had a thing at the bottom of every web page. We had a little sort of text box, but we had placeholder text in it to sort of try to prime people to tell us things. Most of the prompts were negative. It was, like, the worst thing about Stripe is, or the worst thing about this page is, or I really hate the way Stripe does, or whatever. At that stage, you have to be kind of masochistic. And so, again, we'd be sort of always waking up to, all these emails, telling us all the terrible things about Stripe. But it was, sort of a helpful to-do list for the day ahead.